Hey guys, Tower Climber here, and today I'm bringing you another Tower God Explain video. In this video, we're going to be explaining every single position in the tower and how they work in depth. So, I hope you guys like this video, and let's get right into it. The battles in the tower, at least while you're climbing it, are mostly fought as teams, and the positions of an individual is the role they play on the team. Of course, it's possible to battle without dividing into specific positions, but it's more efficient to utilize positions in the long run. Most of the names of the roles are derived from the battles of the first 13 Great Warriors had. As such, they are mainly based on the man versus Shinwei battles, rather than the current day men versus men battles, since when the family leaders first entered the tower, their foes were not humans but ancient fish and mechanoids. However, this doesn't mean that current positions are worthless in men versus men battles. As the importance of men versus men battles in the tower increased more than ever, the current positions evolved accordingly. All positions in the tower have to make a contract with a guardian so they are able to use Shinsu for purposes that we will get into. Just know that all positions use Shinsu in some way, shape, or form. Also note that one person is not limited to one position. For example, Prince is officially a light bearer, yet possesses fisherman equipment, and somebody like Kun Ran is officially a fisherman, but can easily take the position of a spear bearer with his lightning spear techniques. And there are other people in positions that would do good in other positions, such as people like Hots would be really good as a fisherman position, even though he is a scout right now, and scouts like Shibisu, who would be good at commanding and strategizing, would do really good in a light bearer position if he decided to ever switch positions. There are also fighters in the tower known as position hybrids that can cover 2 or more positions 100% perfectly, like Karaka being a fisherman scout hybrid. And while he is also a wave controller, he is better at using the other 2 positions that I mentioned, so he is not categorized as a triple position hybrid. There are also super skilled rankers like Yu Han Sung, who is regarded to be capable of handling all positions in battle, although it has never been stated that he is a hybrid, because it is clear that his best position is wave controller and his other positions don't match his skill in that one in particular. There are 5 basic positions that one can be assigned to on the second floor of tests, and 7 extra positions that are unique to certain people in the tower. Take note that we will be going over all these extra positions on a separate video since this one will be long enough. But all basic positions use unique items to help them out, and all these items come in a variety of ranks. Now that we have all that out the way, let's dive into these positions and what their roles are in the tower. And of course, where else to start than with the main center focus being the Fisherman. The Fisherman is said to be the most independent of all other positions, as it is normally the combatant of the group. The position is suited for close to mid-range combatants, and like I said before, they are the main offense of a team. Fishermen tend to use real hooks and needles in battle. Needles and hooks, which are just needles with a hooked end for more range, are used by fishermen instead of swords and other flat-bladed weaponry because of their level of drag, which is a very important distinction to make since these weapons have a large surface area and in high-density Shinsu environments that are common in higher-level floors of the tower. So when fighting, a fisherman doesn't really slash with a needle, but it's more proper and better to use a stabbing motion. Fishermen generally possess the most destructive power in man-to-man battles. They usually carry light arms with no heavy weapons. Fishermen are really divided into 2 classes: real fishermen who use real inventories to attack their enemies at mid-range, or man-to-man fishermen who go directly on offense at close range. Since the fishermen always contribute the main offense of a team, they are usually always at the center focus of a battle. The fisherman position is very balanced, to be honest, since at long distance they can use a reel, at short distance they can use a needle, but take note that this multi-skill in both areas is a very rare gift. Anak and Nandorsi Jihad were the only 2 regulars that can use reels among the regulars in the second floor, just to kind of emphasize how rare this actual skill is. Real control depends a lot on natural talent like Shinsu control, so it is very hard to find that in most fishermen you go up against in the tower, since again fishermen mostly use Shinsu to boost their bodies instead of controlling the Shinsu around them. You would have to be very skilled as a fisherman to do this. Getting into the weapons now more specifically, so first let's talk about a reel. I talked about it already a little bit. Basically, a reel is a long and flexible line which is then added to either a needle or a hook, in turn allowing the fisherman to adjust the reach of the line. The way the fisherman would manipulate it is by using shinsu to rewind and unwind the reel and control the length and direction of the line itself. Normally the reel is attached to the inventory of a fisherman, and when used in battle it very much resembles a fishing rod able to be deployed in battle. There's also something called armor inventories, which are basically mobile armors that can neutralize enemy attacks. It can also be used to store items inside of it just like any other inventory. The catch is that mostly you will never see anyone really using this during their climb, and this is because armor inventories are considered to be very expensive items for regulars. So again, you most likely won't be seeing this in your climb unless you face off against somebody probably from the 10 grade families that could afford something like this. The basic inventory you would probably find for a ranker fisherman according to SIU is 1 to 2 arms inventory, 1 armor inventory, and 1 reel inventory. Next we're going to spear bearer, and spear bearer is a position that can attack from long distances and snipe the opponents using their spears as their primary weapon. To be clear, a spear is the most common tool for the spear bearer, but in reality it could be any long range weapon would really count, like guns, bows, and arrows and all that kind of stuff. As long as it's long range, it really counts. The spear bearers do not tend to be very powerful in melee combat, but are very valuable due to their pinpoint attacking from a distance. And some spear bearers you can find in the tower do carry around some needles when they come to the front, bearing the possibility of melee combat happening in mind, but in most cases many of them don't really carry them around that much. Spear bearers are more diverse than one may think and are basically divided into 3 types, which are a melee type. This type of spear bearer will engage their combat in close combat fights and attack or pierce them with their spears, using their talent for ranged combat to be able to keep their enemy at a distance with their long spears that in terms of size are the longest basic weapons in the tower. Next is the ranged type. This type of spear bearer will engage their opponent from long distance and attack by throwing their spears. These are normally posted a bit far away from the action but not too far, maybe across some hills. This works because they are far enough to throw their spears, but they are also close enough to where if they need to, they can go help their team on the ground. And finally, the sniper type. This type of spear bearer will engage their foe 100% from long distance and basically act as a sniper with their spears. These are the types of spear bearers that will 100% not be getting anywhere close to the action, and in many cases decide to stay completely hidden from their enemies. Many spear bearers in the tower carry a special inventory called pipes that are specifically carried for holding spears, which are quite heavy due to their massive size. SIU has said that the basic armory for a ranker spear bearer is 1 pipe inventory and 1 to 2 medium armor inventories. The third position we will be talking about is the scout. The scout is the position for that, literally scouting. They move ahead of the group, observe the environment and situation, and they can also aid the fisherman as a secondary offense in battle. Scouts are normally lightly armed for the intention to be agile and swift in moving and thinking. They usually play the role of helping the fisherman regain a foothold or keeping watch of the enemy's movements. However, in frequency and risk of actual being in combat, a scout is a step above the fisherman, as they are often the first to encounter the enemy. The scout is a position which regards mental strength as very important, so somebody who possesses a weak mental strength cannot be a scout. How they use Shinsu is that they can read the change of Shinsu and collect visual data about the environment and enemies. They are basically divided into 2 types. The basic scouts generally work on gathering information for the light bearers and keep watch, while the battle scouts focus on backing up the fishermen in close range combat. SIU has said that scouts like darkness, and scouts are usually the person with the fittest bodies, and in the cases that the enemy's light bearer is more inexperienced, the scout has an upper hand in terms of information and general IQ, and spear bearers would have serious trouble at close range against scouts, as they are meant to be both fast and tricky to hit. But if there's a good light bearer and spear bearer combo and they spot the enemy scout, the scout is very much in danger since they have lost their element of surprise and are basically screwed. The number 1 key of a scout scout is always information, so much so that we have seen that high-level scouts can read minds like Karaka. Their bread and butter basic tool are the observers, a small floating device. Its main use is to collect visual data and pass the information to both the scouts themselves and also the allied light bearers, who in turn analyze this data and coordinate their team accordingly. Basically, a scout will always get the information faster than anyone else on the battlefield. Observers can also be personalized to suit the scout in question. Observers are subject to the ranking and grading of any other item, and it is shown that the functions of a higher ranking observers work completely on observers and lighthouses of lower rank. It is unknown so far if an observer's visual range and ability to discern and process data would increase with its ranking, but I assume that it would. The most basic observers you will see in the tower have round shapes like pockets, but the shape of advanced observers varies a lot. Usually one skilled scout can control several observers at once, so they can serve as extra fields of vision capable of detecting at a higher range. Some of the basic functions that we have seen from observers other than basic data information is illumination of the darkness, although not as much as a lighthouse, being able to project holograms, able to hide one's presence. Some of them are big enough to transport a person, some are able to reflect abilities of other people, and finally they're able to boost the shinsu of your teammates. The final thing I wanted to talk about observers is that they're items known as ancient observers. The only one we have seen in the story so far is the purple Dementor. This is due because during the ancient times of the history of the tower, when war was at its peak and there was no protection from the Tengrade families, the scouts needed all the fighting power they could get. As such, ancient observers were more battle-oriented. The purple Dementor in specifically has poison that can take out even high rankers and is able to shoot Shinsu blasts from its mouth. Some modern observers have also been shown to be weaponized in order for their users to use them as remote-controlled weapons. Some examples being the Purple Eye, which is able to slow the target of choice down, Kun Kaseya's Baby Growler, which can neutralize the ability of lighthouses, Randalee's Little Bee, which can poison his opponents from long range, and Lopobiaju's gun-turned observers, which have guns equipped to them to allow them to fire Shinsu against their opponents. The basic armory for a ranker scout is 2 observers and 1 small inventory with the intention of light movements and light weapons. The next position I'm going to be talking about is the light bearer. My personal favorite position is a position which uses the devices called lighthouses to gain information on the battle and surroundings. So basically, a light bearer tends to gather information and formulate plans with the help of such information, as they also command their lighthouses. Some of them are also known as lighthouse keepers because they need to protect their lighthouse from getting invaded by other people. Lighthouses are glowing devices made of suspendium, which is basically an ore in the tower that makes things suspend in the air. And these are the devices that basically help the light bearer do everything. They help them gather the information that their teammates will then use in battle. The more suspendium a lighthouse possesses, the better the lighthouse shall be. Some lighthouses can even have observer-like functions, but their mobilities will decrease and they will become harder to handle. The light bearer also has an important role in many other types of situations, since the battles in the tower are fought mostly in very dark places, so it is very hard for a battle to be had without light bearers, since one of the basic functions of a lighthouse is to light up the surrounding area around you. When assuming a frontal position, the light bearer participates in close combat themselves and gathers information on the enemy weaknesses. Such light bearers must have exceptional Shinsu control, since they must be able to fight and maintain control of their lighthouses at the exact same time. They must also be able to extend the reach of the lighthouse cubes for a long distance, so they can actually gather the information of the surroundings and the battles around them, as there may be more than 2 or 3 battles going on all at once. When they take a rear position, the light bearer observes the battles from a distance and collects data using their future strategies. They basically control the lighthouse, which then serves as basically the battle command center of the team. Using the information from the other lighthouses, they form strategies to direct and control the tide of a battle. They have the job of issuing instructions to their teammates and based on their feedback decide the next actions to take. Because of all of this data, knowledge, and strategies, a light bearer must be very knowledgeable, sharp, resourceful, and and good at analyzing information and be able to come up with alternative strategies if a team is in a tight spot or if a previous plan has failed. The lighthouses themselves are mostly cube-shaped or box-shaped, while in some very rare cases there are light bearers who have customized lighthouses. A very good example of this is how you're a suitcase. Lighthouses come in all different types of colors and sizes, and they all consist of different purity levels of suspendium. Most lighthouses you're going to find in the tower are made of low purity suspendium, as one of higher quality suspendium are both expensive and difficult to handle. It seems the lighthouse itself can be disconnected or split into different components, such as more cubes of varying sizes, screens, keyboards, etc. Disconnected cubes can be made to expand into the size of a room or larger. Each cube of the lighthouse is able to gather, record, and analyze information, which is then transmitted to the main cube of the lighthouse. There's a misconception that lighthouses can be destroyed easily. This is not really the case. It's more that the lighthouses are controlled by the light bearer itself, so normally when a light bearer's field of Shinsu control is knocked down, then the lighthouse will fall to the ground. So basically it's no longer in operating mode because its power source has been disconnected. So in most cases in battle, unless your opponent is way stronger than you, you're most likely to see somebody target the person controlling the lighthouse and not the lighthouse itself. Because of this, like I said earlier, light bearers must be able to defend the lighthouse by being well versed in combat and also know how to block or reverse a hacking attempt. For example, Kun Hatchling hacked into Kunaguer Agnes' lighthouse so he could take control of it. If a light bearer is located in an extremely bright area where there's not much darkness, they will probably work with more cubes in larger forms due to not having to light up a dark area and basically use all the rest of the cubes to gather information way faster. Each light bearer you're probably going to run into the tower has a different limit on how many lighthouses they can control and the area they can be controlled in. Some of the different powers we have seen from the lighthouse other than gathering information are lighthouse flow control, a technique that restricts the opponent's movement by manipulating the Shinsu within the manipulation field of the lighthouse. This technique can be used with 2 or 3 lighthouses, and the more lighthouses you use, the harder it is for the enemy to escape. Lighthouses are able to accelerate the speed of both objects and people, and they're also able to do lighthouse weapon boosts, where you use a lighthouse to boost the power of a weapon that you are using. A basic technique that you probably will also see in the tower going forward is the shield or barrier of a lighthouse. It's a technique that uses multiple lighthouses to form a shield in front of you, and one of the most popular techniques of a lighthouse is the teleportation, a technique that allows the teleportation of a person or objects to another location with the manipulation field of a lighthouse to another lighthouse placed somewhere else. It has been stated by SAU that lighthouse teleportation is dangerous to use in the middle of battle and may not work if done hastily, and apparently he has even stated a super skilled light bearer can even kill using teleportation, I'm guessing by teleporting a piece of somebody's body away, but we have still never seen this in the actual story so far. And of course, if we're talking about the lighthouse, then we have to talk about one of the most powerful techniques of the lighthouse, which is the Ena-core. The Ena-core is an advanced technique that allows a single lighthouse to do as much computing as 9 of them, with each side handling a different set of calculations. Since this is a lighthouse that possesses incredible computing power, the user is able to generate a mystery sphere that takes the shape of a huge blue honeycomb sphere. The sphere is filled with countless teleportation surfaces, and opponents that touch a teleportation surface are instantly warped to another teleportation spot of the Ena-core, trapping them inside essentially. Then light bearers are also able to change the mystery sphere's mode to red crystal, changing the color of the sphere from blue to red, enabling the user to teleport the entrapped opponent wherever the user wishes in the instant where the opponent attacks with enough power to break through the sphere. Unlike many of the other positions I've been talking about so far, the light bearer cannot be simply covered for by physical power or Shinsu alone. So for those unfamiliar with the position, be it rankers or even high rankers, they would all have trouble performing the light bearer's position very well. Because of this, even a regular light bearer can be a valuable asset to any team, no matter how strong the team is. Unlike many of the other weapons of the other positions, we know what is the most powerful lighthouse, that being the Opera. It was created by Tupari, the greatest light bearer in the entire tower, and it is capable of creating an infinite Shinsu field, thus giving the light bearer basically an extremely powerful boost. Currently, there are only 3 Operas in the entire tower due to the high cost of creating them. And the final thing to know about the lighthouses and the light bearer position itself is that there is something called the box, which is an information sharing community, or basically a blog used by light bearers, which can be used for sharing pictures among other things. SAU has told us that the basic armory for a ranker light bearer is 1 lighthouse body, 3 to 4 small lighthouses, and 1 or 2 armor inventories. And finally, we get to the final position, which is of course wave controller. Wave controller is a position where one helps their allies in battles by attacking an enemy or aiding the team by manipulating Shinsu. Out of all of the 5 ordinary positions, wave controller is the rarest to be chosen for, as one needs to be extremely talented in manipulating Shinsu itself. Even though its rarity, the wave controller position comes with extreme individual varieties. There are wave controllers who recklessly attack the enemy, and there are those who change the tide of the battle by subtly altering the flow of the Shinsu around them. Since the ability to use raw Shinsu at the level of efficiency that makes it even more powerful than combining it with weaponry, it is quite rare to see. There are only truly a handful of wave controllers, as the traditional meaning applies even among rankers. Most of the wave controllers you're probably going to find in your climb lean to the powers of Shinsu manipulating items, but there are those who manipulate Shinsu without any items whatsoever. It really all depends on your talent, as Laurel explained to Bomb in the first season. If you want to boil it down, there are basically 2 common types of wave controllers, an attacking type and a supporting type, but this kind of categorizing is not used much since it's more just for basic standard for beginners, and the wave controllers that are more skilled will be able to create their own individual style of fighting that will almost never look the same between 2 different wave controllers. So while the wave controller is most likely the most freeing position since the limits of Shinsu are almost endless, it also leaves very little room to actually explain what they do, since each wave controller is so different from each other, and the position itself is basically very simple to explain. They just manipulate Shinsu very well. And unlike most of the other positions we have talked about, wave controllers don't really have many items that they use to help them, since their real weapon is the Shinsu they control, but some still have one weapon unique to them, which is known as a wand, which is basically an item that helps the user control Shinsu more accurately if you have trouble doing it by yourself, or it could also just increase your range and control of it even if you're a talented wave controller, such as Han Sung-yu apparently owns a 10S rank wand. Apparently a wand of this caliber is an extreme rarity in the tower. Most of the wands are basically able to use Shinsu because of the contracts they have also been made by the guardians of each floor. So basically if the producer of a wand made a contract in the 30th floor, you're able to use the wand on the 30th floor, and so on and so forth. Wands also don't have to be the traditional wand shape like a lot of other weapons in the tower. Wands can be many shapes and sizes, and one of the best examples I can think about this is the rings that the old lady used in season 2. Now for the last part of this video, now that we know the positions and what they are able to do, I want to talk about some battle strategies or combinations you may find in the tower itself. As while you are climbing the tower, no one can truly fight alone. Each position needs to be able to cooperate with each other. For example, the first team to ever enter the tower was Jihad and his 12 companions that all seemed to at least fill one role on the team, but also had members with rare positions like Anima or Defender. This group also seemed to keep expanding as they climbed the tower, with people like Lustlike, Amazu, and many more, but also keep in mind that nowadays in the tower, teams are even smaller, with mostly only 8 members being the average number, even though there is really no hard limit. This is normally what people after the floor of tests have. The first combination I'm going to be talking about is the Spear Bearer and the Light Bearer. In this combination, the Spear Bearer gains increased accuracy and distance when throwing their spears. The Light Bearer can use their lighthouse to guide the spear, so long as the target is within their range of control. Note that this can also be done with a Scout and Spear Bearer, as demonstrated by Shibisu and Amigo Chaz. Spears can also be teleported using the lighthouse teleportation, as demonstrated by Rack and Kun's combo attack they use pretty often. Also, it appears that Shinsu attacks can also be teleported using the lighthouse, as shown with the Kurdan used the Shinsu attack on the lighthouse, and Kun Hatchling teleported it to where Ren was standing via the lighthouse. The next combination is Fisherman and Scout. This combination is where the Scout pierces the enemy's attacks whilst the Fisherman sneaks in from behind to deliver an attack. This combination reduced by Endorsi Jihad and Hots against Faragov. The next one is Wave Controller and Lightbearer. This one is the most deadly combinations apparently in the tower, and in this combination the Lightbearer can strengthen the bang created by the Wave Controller. This is probably done by increasing the Shinsu of the bangs itself. The Lightbearer can also redirect the bangs to other targets and basically strike anything the Wave Controller misses. Note that the Lightbearer cannot increase the amount of bangs a Wave Controller can produce. It is for this reason that the skill of a Wave Controller is informally measured by the amount of bangs they can produce. And finally, the final position combo I'm going to be talking about is the Fisherman and Spearbearer. This is probably the most common duo you will probably find in the front lines of the tower. In this combination, the Spearbearer provides direct support to the Fisherman, keeping the enemy off balance with spears and covering the Fisherman from other enemies. Another way this could be used is with the Fisherman distracting or forcing the enemy to expose himself, giving the Spearbearer a chance to land a critical attack from behind. Both of these strategies were used pretty effectively by Kunran and Novik. So yeah, that's probably going to be everything for this video. Hopefully you guys liked it and learned some new information you may have not known about the positions of the tower. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great day, and remember, I'm always going to be here to tell you the truth, and if the truth is not fully explained, I'm always going to be here to give you guys my opinion on the truth. Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.